Hey, Shalom, Shalom, want to start off source by giving no praise to Yahweh, Shem, Shah, Shem, Kadash, double honesty, apostles of GMS, and honestly, brothers, doing the work of the Most High in truth and in sincerity. This is a quick one. Brother posted this in the chat the other day. Right, it says the National, this is the newspaper that supports an independent Scotland. Right, it's a dark days as MPs pass Brexit deal as Holyrood says no. Right, Scotland did not vote for this. Europe will see you soon. Right, so this is goes back to this whole Brexit situation that is happening. Well, today, end of today. This is the end of the transition period. So, the post has been, saying 2021 is going to be, an interesting year, right? And even just on that, what do you call it? We see this is the first thing. This is the first major event of 2021. England officially, England's already left. It was in a transition period, right? But this is the end of that transition period, right? From 1 minute past midnight, right? The UK is changed forever, right? And also once again, Scotland, they when the votes were tallied, yeah, apparently, apparent. I say apparently because my thing is how be it, right, that Brexit was finalized at the same time that this Crown Royale pandemic was going out through the world, right? Something that has brought down the economies of the world. Right, England suffered extremely bad, worst recession in 300 years or something ridiculous like that, and then now you've got Brexit on top to compound it. Right, so one can only assume that that may not actually have been, a what do you call it, that may have been rigged, right? Which is as easy as you can't put anything past him, right? But basically Scotland's like, look, man, we didn't vote for this because Scotland as a nation, they didn't vote Brexit, right? Whereas the UK as a nation apparently voted Brexit, right? So this basically makes you consider the scriptures, right? Because Daniel's 2:41 says, "And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but they shall be in it of the strength of iron. For as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay." Right, it says, as and so let me read that again. Like it says, "And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided." Right, so referring to 10 toes, referring to basically the same as the 10 in Revelation speaks about the 7 heads and 10 horns, right? Those 10 horns are represent, and these 10 toes represent the same thing, right? Representing the EEC, European Economic Community, which is now known as the EU, right? And it is, it is partly strong and partly weak. You've got your strong nations, then you've also got your weak nations, right? But also you've got the divisions because you get certain countries that want to do things this way. You got certain countries that want to do things that way, right? Because it's not like America where you've got 52 basically nations, right? Referred to as states, but you got large states in there, man. Bigger than countries, right? When you consider somewhere like the states, there's several things that make the states, similar, right? Whereas you look at Europe, they've all got different, histories, very different histories, right? They've warred against each other, right? They've invaded one another, this, that, and the other, right? So, but then now you're trying to put them under one banner, and then guess what? It causes divisions, right? It says, but there shall be in it of the strength of iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay, right? So once again, showing you have certain strong nations. You think about Germany. Germany is a strong nation, if not the strongest in Europe, right? Germany, France, and England, they were the strongest, the big boys up in Europe, right? But then you had the less well-off nations, right? But then also in terms of the United Kingdom, I mean, because that's why it has that name, the United Kingdom, right? United, if my history serves me well, right, by King James, right? What was it? King James the first and the sixth of England and the first of Scotland, or the other way, I forget, right? But he was the one that I said, if my history serves me well, right, basically united the kingdom, right, and thus the name, right. England, but now you have them as they're referred to as the devolved governments, right? So you have power in, so you could kind of think of it like how in America you've got the federal government, but then you get state governments, and then there's certain things that the federal government has final say on, and certain things the state governments have certain state says on, right? So the main government in the UK is in Westminster, right? However, you've got the devolved governments such as Holyrood, right? And I forgot Plaid Cymru, Cymru, it's really Cymru, isn't it? Plaid Cymru, which is I believe the Welsh establishment, and I forget the one in Northern Ireland, right? They've got certain rules. Now you may actually see it. We know obviously we don't know what the Lord's going to do this year, but hey, if Scotland then votes actually no, we're going to leave the UK, then you've got issues up at the top, right? So now you have a border with Scotland once again, right? Because if Scotland's part of the EU and England isn't, that means you need to check what's going in and out of Scotland, right? So, hey, we're coming up into interesting times, right? I'll finish this, and I got one more precept. So then, as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. Whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. Right. So once again, it's like you trying to mix it together to work, right? But it's just not gonna work, right? It's just not gonna work because iron doesn't mix with clay like that. Right, I'm gonna grab this and I'll go back. This is Matthew 12:25. It says, "And Yahushua knew their thoughts and said unto them, Every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand." It said in cast out Satan, he's divided against himself. How then shall his kingdom stand? Right, so we're in a divided kingdom, right? The Brexit, that's that Daniel's 2 and 40 onwards, right? That's a Brexit scripture, right? And this is the time we're going into, these times of divisions, right? And ultimately, there's gonna be divisions, between the EU and America, to the point where at the end the Lord's gonna put the spirit in these America's allies to shoot missiles at her along with America's enemies, right? And I wanted to come back to Daniel 2:44 at the end, because this is what we look forward to. It says, "And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom, right, shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever." Right. So as all of these other different heathen, kingdoms, right, had their rulership for a set period of time, right, at the end of it, right, we know second Ezra 6 and 9, East was the end of the world, Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. We know that the kingdom of Israel is directly following this kingdom, right, this kingdom of of Esau, and our kingdom is gonna stand forever, right? And we're gonna get it through Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. It says Daniel 7:18, the saints shall take the kingdom. Ain't gonna be no negotiation. We just gonna take it, right? So as always, Lord's what I was edifying. Till the next time, I'm gonna say Shalom.